Welcome to Heroes Feast. May we take your order, please? Welcome to Heroes Feast. Tell us what's your fantasy. Cowboys on the special. You got pirates on the side. Bastards on the daily. All you gotta do is decide. Take your time, cause we got plenty. Just a sec, gotta roll a d20.
Roll for performance, please.
Nice! Here, let's take a quick go. Put your earbuds in and enjoy the show. Welcome to Heroes Feast. Now with hands-free delivery. Hi, everybody. This is Carlos from Heroes Feast.
And this is Emily, also from Heroes Feast. You might know us from our famous podcast, Hero Feast.
Our world-famous podcast. This is a slightly different type of episode where it's not an actual Dungeons and Dragons game. It's just sort of us world building. And we're going to call it Flavor of the Week. This is the potential first episode. Yeah?
Potential. This will be the first episode. Welcome aboard, folks.
First episode if we like it.
That's true. We're the final judge and jury here.
So yeah, we're going to go through a certain genre. We're going to talk about the setting, what that genre means to us, and how we would go about creating a world to play a D&D game in it.
Just kind of fleshing out various potential possible campaigns for your various, I said various twice in that sentence, tabletop role-playing games.
You know, we can't promise this entire idea will be good, but I'm sure there'll be a few gems that you guys can use in your own games. And if you do, let's
sift through it. Pick out the gems. Pick out the diamonds. Make it better.
Diamond in the roughs. All right. So I wanted to talk about horror this week because I really like horror. I like it as a concept when it's not super gory, but just really mysterious and creepy and interesting. I like
psychological thrillers.
Yeah, I like thrillers, but I also like, child wanders into the woods, sees odd, ominous, tall being that has blue eyes and just whistles for communication. Things like that are just creepy light, I guess.
Greatly unsettling.
Yeah, that's the way to put it. I love those types of things. It could be very mysterious and cool, but it also has this slight fairies wisping off people into the ether.
I was gonna say it's a hard word, but yeah, I was gonna say it seems like you really gravitate towards the kind of fae folk-esque eerie stuff.
Yeah, and I would definitely put that in the genre of horror. There at least an aspect of it. What do you think?
I think so, definitely. It's almost that uncanny valley kind of a deal with the fae folk, at least from my understandings of them. Because it's not what traditionally comes to mind, I think, when people think of horror. Because I think usually they think of slasher flicks or zombies. Zombies count as horror. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I know not they're stretching into the realm of adventure themed things, I guess, or action movies now. Yes. They're more popular, but they've started off definitely as horror.
I am.
What do you think about horror? Yeah, because you think of the more gore things immediately.
Yeah. I like horror as a concept, and then when I'm actually confronted with it, not as much. It's why I can't listen to Lore or the Magnus Archives, two other podcasts that are kind of horror adjacent. I have a weird response where if things are too spooky, I start tearing up. I don't know why, and it doesn't happen when I watch scary movies, but it happens when I listen to scary audio. So that's weird.
Audio, I feel is much more personal, and you feel so much more alone when you're watching it, and it's hard to disengage with it as you do.
It's just my goddamn imagination,
screens. Yeah, because your imagination's too good.
Out to get me.
I know their horror podcast shout out is the No Sleep podcast. They have some great voice actors, and they do a great job just with the auditory setup. I think you actually feel you're not necessarily watching something, but just very much a part of the story.
Immersion.
There we go. They do a great job with immersion. So yeah, how would I feel I would definitely do more Eldrick's unknowable, creepy fae folk type horror. How would you make that same type of episode, or how would you go about with the horror world building thing?
Now that we're including that in horror, I would definitely do that, because just there's so many horrific tales of things like that, and I think you could really, it's almost an umbrella thing where you can include a lot of other things. In Doctor Who, where they're everything is actually an alien. I feel you could do a similar thing with fae folk, where it's vampire, the type of fae thing, werewolf, type of fae thing, and it's just all the ookie spookies are all under one thing.
Yeah, I love that. Going towards what making a world, actually, that gives me a great idea. Is what if it's an urban modern setting, and all those weird myths are actually a part of that other dimension of fae folk. So
I'm trying to think of the word, because I know there's a genre like that and I can't remember what it is. It's urban punk. Nope, that's not it.
Urban fantasy or something?
Yeah.
but like urban fantasy, like horror. Like, do you remember the tooth fairies? The teeth fairies? The
The
tooth
Teeth
fairies?
Fairy.
It's the plural of tooth fairy. Those guys, you remember in Hellboy how they were very creepy and like ate away at teeth?
Oh, Hellboy's a perfect example for this.
Yeah, like
Yes.
Guillermo del Toro, I think is a great example of like uncanny valley, like creepy fae folk type of vibe.
I love Hellboy. That's such a good movie.
Again, I love this is like what I have the most experience with it, but it's like younger kids being thrown into this like world of magic, I guess. But
It does seem to be young kids a lot, huh?
Yeah, and I think it's we could definitely do adults too. That's what I have experience with. That's what they tend to do in like books that I've read. And whenever it's adults, it's like bloody slasher and there's like gore and all these other things that I don't really love about horror that don't really speak up to me. Like I don't love like horror stories that have to do with like abuse or emotional or like trauma.
It seems to be punitive against like, oh, you're gonna have sex in the woods, we're gonna kill you now. And it's like, okay, that's a cool message to send across. Great.
Yeah, I don't love I love the ones that are again like somebody digs something up that's very mysterious and are drawn towards it and they don't know why and it like calls to them in the middle of the night.
Jumanji.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of like that. Anyway, that's what horror means to me, I guess.
Just anywhere USA
mystery.
kind of a vibe for a town.
Anywhere USA, but I love the Northwest. Again, do we? I guess we already. I guess this is the first episode, so we haven't. So, but Gravity Falls is another example who I would like put in like horror-esque, very mysterious.
To the Confusion Hill.
Yeah, something like that. I think like small town boonies.
Because the Gravity Falls, the Mystery Shack and stuff was based on the Confusion Hill. So like if you go there, it's like what, fucking 3 hours from where I live, I think.
Yeah.
But they've got like that. I don't know if you'd call it a statue per se, but Bill Cipher is there in the physical realm, nailed on a tree. So it's
really, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. I have a very great black and white Polaroid of him. It looks really weird.
Fucking sick. Yeah. For those who don't know, we both went to school up in that area, so we're very familiar with like the Northwest of America.
It's just got an eerie vibe because like fog is very common up here. These big tall trees that have been around long before you and will be around long after you're gone. It's just this very, I don't know, an otherworldly kind of element to it, I feel like.
Yeah.
Are we just going to recreate Twilight? Welcome to Forks, Washington. Here's our fae vampires.
Yeah, I guess we could. So I think we did a good job of defining like what the genre means to us. We talk about setting, how we really like the Northwest. It's like that bit of mystery, the oldness of it. It's kind of like uncharted territory, or at least a lot of it is, with like big, huge parks with towering trees that can be like both. You
could walk around for hours.
Yeah, both beautiful and like ominous. Every now and then, like for those who've like walked in those woods, you find like a weird shack or a teepee that's been put together and like looks abandoned. I've walked in those.
Yeah, that's always unsettling.
Yeah, or like there's that big hollowed out like stump of a redwood tree that was like right by our dorms. Yeah, things like that I really like. And so I think the woods also is like very much horror.
I mean, like you were talking about the tall figure with the blue eyes or whatever, like very easy. Is it a tall, thin tree or is it a tall, thin something else? Who's to say? You blink once and it's gone. Like
that's another thing. Like there was the movie on Netflix, The Ritual, where they're staring off to the tree. They feel like they're being watched by something, and then they turn away, and then the audience sees something move, and all of a sudden it has like an outline as like something walking. If that makes sense.
Slender Man vibes, circa what was it, like 2010 or something?
That's again, it's like that Slender Man type horror is also very good. The creepy pastas, the ones that are less gory, I guess.
So I guess it would just be like in this hypothetical campaign, it would just be a mix of like regular ass people, I suppose, who. What's the term? Glamours or whatever. So it's like regular ass people who can't see past the glamours, and then the various fae folk.
Yeah, and like I'm sure there's like somebody or two like hippie people who know about this, and they can do like a whole introduction to the whole idea of it. Like maybe they're the ones who like leave milk on their windows or like bread at the trailhead to keep people safe.
Yeah, the old. God, remember words. They know the old stories from wherever it is they might have come from, whatever tales have been passed down in the family or what have you.
Let's see. Do you like something that's more humanoid, or do you prefer something more like, giant, like moose or something? Like
giant moose are already pretty giant, so a giant moose is absolutely terrifying to me.
Well, imagine like so like redwood trees are huge and all of a sudden like you see a leg move that you thought was a tree, and it's actually like a huge deer like
Oh
standing
shit.
watching right above you.
I think I like the idea where it's like in the more concentrated areas of the populace, it's like more humanoid fae folk who can kind of pass for a human. Like, like out of the corner of your eye, you're like, they got horns. And you look again and like, oh, no, they don't. It's like just the glamour hiding it. But then the further away you get from civilization, the more you encounter moose.
Oh yeah,
I almost said meese.
Mises, Meekson, Moxon.
Mises and teeth fairy. But yeah,
I think
have a mix, I guess.
yeah, I like that idea of like a bay folk like Northwest forest. I think that's like would be a great setting, and there's already so many like things about it, and I love the idea of like disappearances associated with it.
Oh yeah, people wander off into the forest, and everyone knows what happens, but just don't say anything. Don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. In terms of villains, it's hard to describe like a horror villain. I feel like it's more because villains have a motive, I guess. And I feel like really good horror, it's hard to understand what the creature's motive is.
Because I think sometimes that lends to what the horror is. It's just you don't know, you can't understand. It's just doing these things, and it's like, well, why are you doing this kind of a vibe? And it's like just cause.
Yeah, it's like
I feel like if there's a motivation, you can try to understand at least and be like, oh, I can kind of see why, but
yeah, having any sort of reason with it, really,
for the sake of wanton killing.
yeah, I think it just
Sorry.
really doesn't. No, you're definitely right. I was trying to get my words together. It doesn't help make the story scary, and I think that's the other thing. You have to make your campaign. Having to make your campaign scary is hard to do.
I mean, what definitely helps is the one time you ran like a little mini horror campaign and you had that like spooky, anxiety-inducing music playing.
Oh yeah, that's definitely like a big thing.
Music is powerful.
Yeah, knowing what music to use. That's like that high pitch, uncanny valley frequency. That's like not music necessarily, but just ominous sound.
Just unsettling. But so would this campaign have like a big bad, so to speak, then? Or is it just...
Yeah, I definitely think it would have like a big bad. Even better, there'd be like many of them that are like it's not revealed until the end. Like maybe they kill one of them and then it's revealed that like a bunch of them are watching right at the end. That's the other thing. I feel like horror, it's like just like the Goosebump books, you like never really win. Maybe
no, I get that. I was trying to think of the Goosebumps books, and I was like, I think I literally only read the creepy one with the ventriloquist dummy walking down the hallway, and that was such a terrifying scene that has literally been stuck in my mind since I read it, and I don't think I ever read any other Goosebump books.
So with Goosebump books, not to spoil it for anybody, they're one of my favorite books. Oh, in the end, you always like they win and then they don't. Like something happens where it's sort of a twist, so to speak. Far better than like an M. Night Shyamalan twist, but
Not to tie it back to Jumanji again, but kind of like Jumanji where like they quote unquote win and they all survive the game, but like the game board is still out there and it's going to fuck up someone else.
Exactly.
Some other time.
Yeah, winning isn't winning. And that's another thing that I think is important to horror. Like the big bad motives are unknowable and there's no scenario where you truly win.
I like that. A little level of hopelessness to it, but like I vibe with it.
Yeah. And I think that's where horror is different from like other sort of genres. Is like fantasy lends itself more into like, yes, there's magic. Yes, there's centaurs. Yes, there's elves. Whereas in horror is like really you can make a fantasy horror, you can make an adventure horror. Or I guess adventure is like more similar to horror, but if that makes sense. Yeah. Whereas sci-fi and fantasy are more concrete sort of ideas. Horror or maybe adventure or mystery are like the lens in which to like view those things.
Genre light, and you can just lay that film over other genres.
Exactly. I like the direction we're going with the haunted forest and not winning and things like that.
So would the group of big bads, is it like the equivalent of a fey court, do you think, in this setting, or is it just like...
I like the idea of like maybe the author or the creators would know that it's like, yeah, this is their court, but the players would never actually find that out unless they got really lucky.
So like secretly puppeteering from behind the screen?
Yeah.
Behind
like
the scenes?
something like that. Like I'm picturing like something that's very like small, hunched over, almost like wearing a sheet maybe. That's like pretty dirty and just like you see it like you're looking up into the forest from your house and you see it on like the edge of the trees and it like you blink and it's gone. And then maybe towards the end of the campaign, you end up killing it. And you look towards the end of your vision in the trees again, you see them like standing all around you.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, and that's the vibe you're trying to go for. I think.
Successful campaign if they don't like it.
And I think that's like one of the examples where it's like not a very creepy looking thing. It's just not like a small figure with a sheet over it. But in the like when it doesn't belong.
But then it's like what's under that sheet kind of a vibe too.
Yeah, exactly.
The unknowableness of it all.
So I like the probably best way to introduce them is like people are disappearing.
Mm-hmm. It's classic introduction to the plot for these kind of things.
And maybe like the people lost friends and they're going to go investigate, or maybe they're like park rangers. That's another. There was a great story on Reddit about like a park ranger who shared like his stories. I think it's called like Stairs in the Forest or something.
Oh, geez.
And it was like, why are these stairs here? Why are they weird? Why is it scary to go up them? I don't know. It's very weird to go in the middle of the forest and find like an empty staircase.
I mean, that could be pretty fun too if it's like, I mean, assuming you have the wherewithal to do this, but to like homebrew your own campaign where it's different classes of like park rangers who can do different things and just everyone is a park ranger.
Yeah. How about just a campaign where it's all rangers? It's 3
That's
rangers.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, actually, let's do that where it's like the game is like you play as park rangers who are like newly vetted into like the fold of this like, yeah, we're park rangers, and just to have you guys know, this is a haunted forest. Be careful. These are the rules you need to stay alive. When you look into like the shrouded beings, look at your feet immediately, count to 3, then look back up. The more you stare at them,
all those arbitrary rules and whatnot.
Yeah. That's the other thing. There has to be like, I think rules are really fun in the sense like there's like people like have figured out how to deal with a thing, but not really. They don't really know if that works or not. It's just kind of work.
Educated at best. I like that one where it's like vampires have to count all the grains of salt that are put in front of them or something like that.
Yeah, things like that. Oh,
that's a great one.
Speaking of which, how about instead of like they see a bunch of like little ones, but there's also like a huge one in the distance, like just a tall, narrower thing again, and like a sheet with like all the little ones around it.
Tall and narrow, like tree tall and narrow, or like regular person size tall and narrow.
Like Yao Ming in a sheet, I guess. Not so he's not tall, or he's not. Sorry, not he is tall. He's not narrow though.
Who?
You don't know who Yao Ming is?
The tallest man in the world.
He's a Chinese basketball player. He's 7'6".
Oh, so like taller than the average human, so tall enough to be unsettling.
Tall enough to be not that Yao Ming is a little unsettling just because he is so tall. He makes Shaq look like a normal person.
No tea, no shade on people over 6 feet tall, but speaking as a 5 foot tall person, unsettling.
Yeah, exactly. And Yao Ming's not like scrawny either. You know, he's like a very fit athlete.
Yeah. A sportsman, if you will.
So seeing that amongst like a group of them would be very, I think, scary.
I think, yeah, because then it's like, well, what's that? If these ones are tiny, why is this one tall? Is that a grown-up version? Is it a different thing? Like, the questions alone, endless.
I read something very recently that was like the Eldritch Teletubbies. Like all the little ones you see on TV are like the baby forms, and the elder adult Teletubbies are just like creepy, all-knowing beasts with like
oh my God.
horrible like intertwined antennae on their top of their head, and their screen is just like a wash of static, and you every now and then you see things moving. But that's some of the things that I think would work really well. But like that, but with like the shrouded figures and their park rangers. I mean, like trying to keep guests safe, and that maybe like the game is like them trying to survive through their first night, seeing if they remember all the rules and things.
Yeah,
like
that could raise the question: like, is this like an overarching campaign, or could it be more episodic monster of the week kind of vibe, where every week it's like, well, not every literal week, but like it's them trying to deal with. I mean, let's face it, people don't like listening to rules apparently, especially when it's for their own safety. So I imagine it's a lot of the park rangers versus the shrouded figures versus unassuming campers and what have you who are just clueless doing some random bullshit. And they're like, no, wait, actually, you can't do that. You'll disappear forever.
Honestly, that sounds about right. I would love to do an episodic campaign where you all play like park rangers, and it's like a different thing every week, where it's like maybe the first session is like the clouded or the sheet guys, the sheet figures, or whatever you want to call them. And the next episode is like, yeah, so we told you guys about the caves, right? If you see a cave and that's unmarked on the map, don't go into it. It's not real. And
oh my God.
And that leads to like maybe a visitor going into like a cave and like having to go after them or something like that.
Honestly, I really like, I don't know if it's like trope or something where it's like everything's kind of disjointed at the beginning and it's just random shit is happening and they're like, oh no, and it's revealed that like, oh, there's actually a thread connecting all of these horrible occurrences and something far greater is at stake, and it's like, oh no, something really bad is happening kind of vibe.
I think then you fall into like Stranger. I mean, it's still Stranger Things.
Falls-esque kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, did you watch Stranger Things?
Yes, I did.
So do you know how like it was? I think it was scarier at first, but the more you learned about it, the less kind of scary it got.
Because it's the knowing. The knowing
Yeah.
makes things less scary.
But I think that's where it kind of falls. Like the more you play, the more you find out the more overarching thing. I guess the less creepy it gets. But
You learn the secrets of the forest.
and I like to like have it revealed that it's still like you're not really sure what's going on still. Like maybe you see like the shrouded thing and looking into one of the caves, and a tall finger comes out, points to you, and then points back, or it goes back into the cave, and you see the shrouded figure turn its head to look at you, and you're like,
Bleh.
"What is this? It doesn't mean anything to me, but I find out more, and I don't like it."
That could be an interesting thing too, even if it's like, even though everyone has all these rules in place, what happens when something breaks one of those rules? Then what would you do?
And I'm sure there's going to be like a player or a ranger who does that to figure it out.
Just fuck around and find out. Fuck around and find out. I guess essentially it's just like you keep going until you die, unfortunately, I suppose.
Yeah, again, I think it's one of those things where like maybe you leave, maybe you quit, or maybe you become like the senior ranger and you like have to keep all these other rangers alive.
That's like a win in a way, but those things are still out there doing what they do.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about with this? I feel like we fleshed out like a lot of it there. So we'd have the players be park rangers who like new park rangers for some woods in the northwest that are like tall redwood trees.
Mhm.
Very ominous, very huge, and it's like frequented enough where they need park rangers to like watch over visitors,
Oh, yeah.
but not frequented enough where it's like popular, I guess.
So maybe not like a campsite per se, but there are like trails perhaps that need to be maintained.
And there are people who do camp there, but there's not like well managed campsites, I suppose.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah, things like that. And then there's all these like fae folk esque creatures that live there and that have all these rules that the rangers are slowly like taught.
Mhm.
That they never thought they would have to learn. They're just thought like, yeah, we're gonna watch over trees. Maybe we'll have to like deal with like a wolf or a bear or something, but that's
They
about
went to
it.
ranger school and then they came to this post and they're like, "Hey, guess what? The Fae folk are real and you have to deal with them. Welcome to the job."
I also love the idea of like that same like hippie people like telling them about it a little bit, and they're just like, nah.
Nah.
And then
Nah, nah,
their
nah.
ranger in charge is just like, hey, so just follow these rules. If you see something that looks like this, do this, and doesn't say anything else about it.
No questions. How do we feel about NPCs that are like, are there any Fae who would align themselves with the humans just for shits and giggles?
Oh yeah, I think there's definitely like benevolent fae that can lend themselves well to horror.
I
Like
really vibe with like, that one character where it's like they're a piece of shit and they kind of like play all sides of the field just to try and get ahead and they're like looking out for number one, that kind of a vibe.
yeah, like maybe it's the park ranger, like the head park ranger is like a fae folk all along or something, and like they find a
Now
picture.
that would be a twist.
They find a picture of like how about this? They find like a yearbook that like archives all like part.
From 1807.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like a picture of like the same park ranger guy, like his exact face and stuff.
Does no effort to try and change the way he looks. Same beard, same mustache every year.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like maybe like the guy like they confront the lead ranger about it, and he's just like stares at them like, yeah, that's my grandpa, and he like leaves it at that. And so like they can suspect, but they'll never really know. And like
The
yeah,
uncertainty.
yeah, he's helpful, but he's also like probably one of them.
So how trustworthy can he be? I think
Exactly.
that could be like a big theme basically where it's like just uncertainty. Did we really beat this character? Did it really end? Did they really come back as is? Because I love the changeling archetype. Well, I don't like how it's probably like ye olden terms for autism or something, but like I like the non-shitty version where it's this
Yeah.
person that came back. Is it really them or is it something else?
And I think that would be also like a great thing to like tie into it. And I think it's what are those writers who did all the Grimm fairy tales? No, the Brothers Grimm. Is that what it's
They
called?
definitely wrote some stuff.
I know they wrote some like stuff, but
It was more like fairy tales though, like Cinderella, Snow White and stuff, I think, yeah?
yeah, but you know how they had like a horror, not horror, but like a darker tint to them.
Yeah, like Cinderella's sisters had their toes chopped off to fit in the slipper and stuff like that.
Yeah.
eyes eaten out by crows.
I like doing the same thing, but like with myths and like sort of folklore, doing like the darker tint to them.
Yes, yes.
Like, what's a benevolent like sort of folk tale that you kind of know of about like? We used to have a couple of traditions like when I was on the cross country team about like when you're running like around a certain tree, you had to go like left around the tree and not right.
Neat.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's like probably wasn't that big a thing. It was just like it was
A
probably
minor cryptid, if you will.
yeah, but it's like still, and like maybe you're running the trail alone one time, like it's close to like sundown, and you run like the wrong way, and all of a sudden you turn the bend and you're back at the same tree.
Oof.
And you keep doing that until like you go the right way around the tree, and then suddenly you can like keep going on your way.
I like that. That ended better than I thought it would.
I mean, you can end it darker if you want, but not everything needs to be like
That's
world
true.
ending, and probably shouldn't be, because then it takes the weight away from things that are.
Yeah, it's just weird small town shit, I feel like, in this campaign. Like, even when you get to the top tier big bad, I think really it should only really affect this immediate area. I don't know, I just like end of the world apocalypse just sounds exhausting, you know?
Oh yeah, I know. I don't like it when things get that big, because I love the idea
It
of
kind
like,
of loses the scope of it.
yeah, like I'm imagining like one of the park rangers going back home to their normal ass life and just being like, nobody else knows and would think I'm crazy if I told them about it.
Gonna heat my little microwave burrito. Gonna try and suppress all the weird shit that happened today, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
It's like, oh, can't take showers anymore because I don't want to close my eyes for that long a period. Just like only taking baths. Yeah, like another.
That just makes me think of a Supernatural episode I saw where they drowned someone in a bathtub. So maybe all the park rangers are just very stinky.
Yeah, I mean that's another reason. Like maybe like they're like, why is our team lead smell so weird? Maybe like, oh, like another example I was thinking like Sasquatch or Bigfoot. That's like something that's really popular up there, and making him like larger than life and kind of like not necessarily just an ape man, but this thing that just like guards over the forest with like big glowing eyes, like bigger than people had realized, and he just kind of sits in one
I
spot.
feel like someone's doing something with my mailbox. I'll be right back. Very sorry.
No, best of luck with that.
I'm back.
How was that? That was very ominous.
Yeah, I don't I don't like how staged this feels given the topic that we're discussing, but wasn't my mailbox, was the weird dehumidifier unit thing. Something was making a scraping noise.
Well, goodbye,
Cool.
Emily. Guess you're gonna die.
We've been talking about the Fae folk too long. I've invited them into my home, apparently.
Yeah, and you're the one who lives so nearby.
Yep. I am in this setting, and that is the twist for this episode.
We've killed the Fae folk here in Davis.
Okay, well, I banged on it and it stopped, so...
Sweet. You've angered them.
I think a lot about how when you helped me moved in, and you were like, someone could hide in this closet, and I was like, cool, thank you. I think about that a lot.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. I'm not dead yet, so...
Sweet.
Oh well. But yeah, so I almost want to turn this into like a silly kind of office-esque workplace rom-com kind of vibe.
But that's what you always want to do with horror. You want to make it
true.
Funny. That's when you know you're doing in the right direction. When you're like, haha, let's make a joke about this, please.
Well, that's the thing too. I've seen where it's like horror and comedy. It's a very thin line where it's like, oh, someone explained it so succinctly and I don't remember it, but it essentially like humor has a punchline.
Comedy is it's the unexpected. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like you laugh when something like unexpected happens, and that's what punchlines are. But I don't know enough about it to tell you what the difference is, I guess.
Because someone was saying how like you might recall us, the guy who wrote it. Oh fuck, what was his name? Jordan Peele, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he like was like a comedy sketch artist for a really long time too. So it's like walking that perfect line of comedy versus horror versus comedy, etc.
I mean, Us is a great example of like the type of horror that I'd enjoy. Again, like very unique ideas, very unsettling.
That whole replace kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's another thing I guess. Like that follows along like the changeling, like the idea of like a doppelganger.
Mm-hmm. Not to unintentionally potentially spoil Us, but
oh yeah, I mean everybody going into Us knows about it, and that came out in like what 2018 or something, 2019. I feel like it was 2019.
Probably.
Had to be. Also, the artist who did all that Elder Tubby art, his name is Jars.Drawings. I just found him on Instagram.
Shout out to you, man, or person.
Yeah, they have all the Elder Tubby stuff up there. And I thought, oh, that's cool.
All the Elder Tubby stuff.
That's neat. Is there anything else you would add to the campaign?
Oh, Duh, magic items. You could go
Oh,
ham with magic items here.
that's the other thing. I love the idea of like, what is this little figurine I found in the forest? And it's like a carved wooden little piece that like you hear
A
whispers
totem?
from in the night. Yeah, totem. I love totems. They're neat.
It's Horace. He's here in this campaign.
Or maybe like a shred of cloth that like you hold it up to your face and then you can see like shadow. Like, so how about this? I think I like this idea where, like sheets, they're thin enough you can hold it up to your face and everything's like kind of, you can see
Hazy,
through it.
gossamer through it or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a gossamer
Yeah.
type filter over your eyes. So you look through this like piece of fabric and you see things, like you see shadows or weird shapes, and then that kind of
There's always some sort of item in these settings where it like helps people see past the glamours and whatnot.
yeah, and it kind of ties into like why those people are in sheets if they're people.
Yeah, we don't know what they are. Who's to say? How so if the tallest one is like about 7 feet or so, how small are the small ones? Are we talking like a foot or like child size, but they're clearly
Always
not
child
children?
size for peak
Yeah.
creepiness.
Yeah. And that's sad. There's like a whole genre dedicated to making the young of our species look creepy. What's that about, I wonder?
Children did it to themselves when like parents wake up at like 3 a.m. and their kids staring down at them.
That's fair. Apparently, when I was young, I had night terrors and I didn't remember or know that was a thing. And then one time I was telling my mom, I was like, one time I woke up and I saw a dark figure in front of me and I just stared at it and I went back to bed. And she's like, oh, yeah, you had night terrors a lot when you were younger. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, thinking about that, I think I had like similar experiences with like night terrors and stuff.
I don't know, man. Children and animals, I feel like they're attuned to some weird shit.
Kids always have like imaginary friends that are like, I'm friends with like Martha O'Leary. She's been dead for 500 years.
Yeah, there's like that whole trend of stories where it's like the creepy shit kids say, and it's like, okay, that's out of left field.
Yeah, exactly. So like, not that they're children underneath the sheets necessarily, but child height I think lends itself very well.
Enough so that a park ranger on first glance might assume, oh, some kid dressed up as a ghost lost in the woods. And then they're like, kids don't move like that.
And one of the rules is like, don't follow the hooded or the sheet figures or the sheet people or whatever.
Sheets.
Just don't follow the sheets. Yeah.
I feel like you could call them ghosts maybe, but like in a kind of ironic way because it's like they're dressed like ghosts, but they're
I would
clearly
love that.
physical.
Actually, that's a great idea. Don't follow the ghosts. And I'm like, what do you mean don't follow the? Of course, I'm not going to follow a ghost. And they're like, no, it's going to look like a person wearing a sheet. Don't follow them.
It's not. Don't do it. Like I think like it could be a fun mix of like to go back to magic items, a fun mix of things where it's like shit you just find in the wood and it probably has some terrible vibes attached to it. And then like stuff that like the people who are attuned to this stuff might have created. Like
Ooh.
some sort of iron bracelet or something kind of. Iron's
Ooh.
a thing that repels Fae, I think,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah. Or like a flashlight with a weird lens on it.
Ooh, yeah.
That's
I like that.
It has like a red glass instead of like clear. Or
illuminates some weird a Fae folk blacklight, if you will.
Oh my god, love that idea.
Yeah, I like that. I like those. I don't know. I just, especially when it comes to the urban fantasy, I like the blending of stuff like that, where it's like it all kind of bleeds into each other.
And that's exactly like I like to think we're going with this world is like bleeding in like Fae folk into modern urban society. I guess it's not urban because it's forests, but you know what I mean.
If it's based on the towns up here, urban's a bit of a stretch.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that idea, by the way, of like the magic items being like something people made to like help get by.
Mm-hmm.
Like little phylacteries of like some liquid of like a lake or something. The things don't like, or maybe like the ranger's like, oh, dang, why are we having pancakes again today? And the lead ranger's just like, yeah, they don't like maple syrup, and just like heaps on a bunch more to his plate, and you're just like, what?
I like the concept too of if the head park ranger is potentially a Fae folk, they just come up with random shit sometimes, and everyone's like, is that a real rule, or are you fucking with us?
I mean, he's just like, yeah,
can't tell.
I won't tell you all the rules because if they never win, then they go big. If they win a little bit every time, then it kind of stays like that.
It's like playing with a dog where you gotta let him win sometimes or it gets too angry.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, they have to take people every now and then, but they don't have to take all the people. And that's what we're here for.
Sacrifices.
Yeah, maybe you don't follow that one guy in the woods. Just let him be. He made his decision.
People make their choices and sometimes they're bad choices.
Yeah, we try to keep it at like 5 people a year. That's the average for most forests, so it's fine.
So then, like, are there really, I guess it's not so much fighting monsters really. It's more just like, I guess this could like, would this be more like of a pacifist kind of a campaign where it's like the goal is to try and reason with and like come to some sort of compromise with these beings, or is it like kill them all?
I think killing them, maybe you could kill one or two, but that wouldn't really solve. I mean, of course, as players, you can do anything you want, but I don't see it as a DM like that doing anything. I think the goal of the
Yeah,
game,
fucking go on a killing spree if you want. Your campaign, your rules.
yeah, but I think it comes down to like you have to be driven to like find out what the mystery is. That like is definitely a big goal, and then like protecting other campers and other people who like hikers and stuff, like finding missing people, helping them out. I think those are like would be like the big goals.
Just having the body count be as low as possible, or lack of a
Yeah,
body count,
yeah,
since these people are just vanishing.
that's the goal, so to speak, making sure they don't win all the time. What do you think about character? What kind of character would you play for this game?
One of the Adventure Zone campaigns, one of the players plays a park ranger, and I'm trying really hard just not to create a duck copy because his name is Duck. But I kind of like the idea of like a very young peppy gal, very excited to be a park ranger, and then gets there, and then she's like, "Oh no, this is not what I thought it would be at all." And it's just a challenge of her trying to keep up her positivity when it's like the horrors that they probably see and the weird shit that goes on. And she's trying to be like, "Hey guys, another great day at work." But inside she's like, "Oh my God." And then that's just her going about her life.
Fuck that's fucking great. I love that idea. Would you just have them be an actual like ranger as a
Like as a class?
class? Yeah, or do you want to try to go some other direction with it?
I guess it depends too on like what the engine is that you're running with. But I feel like if you're doing classic D&D 5e Ranger, I assume would be the most in line with that.
I love the idea of trying to fit them into like the block, and I feel like that's where a lot of great like story building comes from.
I mean, they share the name, so
Yeah, but like you can also think about it as a paladin, where like I'm here to here to protect people as best as I can, and protect the forest and the people.
it's true. That's true.
Almost a Smokey the Bear character, and I feel like Dimension.
I do like the idea of like physically fighting creatures. I think that's hilarious. Like I'm gonna punch a ghost. Like that's funny to me.
Yeah, it's probably definitely a lot of like grabbing and running away, like trying to hold things back. I mean,
I feel like too, because instead of like a traditional instrument, it could just be you carry a radio around or something. That could be fun
yeah.
for this campaign.
In Dimension 20, they have one of the campaigns, which I think is the Unsleeping City. Zach Oyama plays a character who is a firefighter paladin of New York City, and he's the lord not lord, but like the higher thing that he follows, like what makes him a paladin is like his civic duty. And I imagine that would fit very well as like a ranger or as a paladin in this game. Maybe like a few levels of ranger.
The Rangers is my code.
Protect the forest, protect the hikers, educate.
I'm actually, since I said it though, I'm really vibing with the bard idea, the modern bard, as it were. So I feel like Poppy for now. And I will say Poppy probably would carry around a radio and just kind of like blast it, and that would be her spells. And she's like, "Wait, I have the perfect song." It's like fucking Eye of the Tiger or something.
It's fucking
Not
great.
copyrighted.
Yeah, I think that's really a good idea. And maybe like part of being a bard is like telling stories. And so like they know like what people have to say. Like, yeah, one time my sister's cousin, or I guess that's just their cousin. My sister's friend's brother's cousin. I guess that's wait. You know what I mean? They know of like people. They know of like things that have happened in the forests, and they just found it interesting and like brought them in. I think those are both be really fun characters to play.
What would you play?
I like the idea of the paladin figure. I also like the idea of what would be the class? Maybe like a roguish sort of character who's definitely like more solitary and outdoorsy.
Yeah,
And
that
like
would,
use it to like
pretty good.
Sneak up on like people who are like illegally camping or illegally hunting or something. Like
the shadows, you shouldn't be here right now.
Like I think there's like that's part of like one of the subclasses, like investigator of rogue.
Yes, I played that class one time. I got very little mileage out of it, but in a campaign like this, it probably would work very well.
Yeah, I think that would be the most fun.
For sure, that'd be great. What's the vibe of this rogue potentially?
Very very quiet and stoic, like I guess.
Roguelike, if you will.
Very roguelike. I don't know. It's because I've never like played a rogue before. I like going until all of the like not traditional necessarily, but all like the cheesy versions of them just to see what it's like. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when I play Duke, I like being the druid who's like protect the forest, protect animals, because I've never played a druid before, or I've never played a druid before, so it's fun to like do
Embrace
it
the
like the very
stereotypes, as it were,
there we go. Embrace the stereotypes just to start, just to get a taste for it.
and then twist it to your own kind of thing when you feel
Yeah,
like it.
maybe it's like he's a rogue, but he's just like a guy who likes camping alone in the forest. He does like a lot of backpacking on his own.
They're just like, we haven't seen him in a couple hours. Is he okay? And they're like, yeah, this is fine. This is normal
He's
for
just
him.
like
Don't worry about it.
Like, no, yeah, he came back last night. He's over there, and he's just like in his like full like head wrapped sleeping bag on the couch, just like covered in dirt. And he's like, yeah, he's been here for. You didn't see him for me.
It's just like a pile of clothes, and it moves, and it's like, oh god, it's him. He's here.
Yeah, he just comes and goes as he plays. Does like night watches a lot. It's like, hey guys, I'll take my gonna take a walk around the forest, check out if anything's going on.
Survives exclusively on coffee and Slim Jims.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like he's the one who'd be like when everybody learns about the ghosts, those people on sheets, he's like, oh, you guys didn't know about them? Yeah, a bunch of them were following us earlier. I thought you guys knew. I didn't say anything.
I was just about to say too, that would bring an interesting element to the group, is that someone joined knowing that this is what this branch of Rangers did, and they knew about all the Fey world and whatnot, and they're like, yeah, I gotta help with this.
Or yeah, just like, yeah, I didn't think anybody else would really do it, and I thought he could get a lot of opportunity to be alone. I don't know, it seems chill.
Does seem like a pretty lit job.
And I think it'd be a fun contrast to play against your character. He's very cheerful and peppy and be like, hey guys, let's go on a group hike. It's like, that's not what hikes are for. You go alone.
Hikes are for solitude and thinking
exactly for
quietly
solitude.
by yourself.
Exactly. And I think that would work really well.
See, the problem with this podcast is we end every episode with me being like, God, I want to play this now. Don't have time.
And we can always come back to it, and we can always make a one shot. I'd be more than happy to like run this one. I love the horror-esque stuff.
Love the concept.
Oh yeah. Well,
but speaking of which,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go. I was going to do a wrap up there.
Oh yeah. I was going to ask for engine, just like do an overview. So yeah, pretty much wrapping up. Just like the engine was 5e. Yeah.
It could be. I mean, really, I think Monster of the Week could work with this very well as well, just by the basis of it being Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
I mean, 5e is, some may disagree with me here, but I feel like it's pretty malleable and you can kind of make it apply to anything, like just with a couple tweaks,
Yeah, I think it's all about reflavoring things and
yeah,
because the mechanics are there. You just have to
Arcana could easily just be changed to like Fey knowledge or something, like it's easy enough to tweak it.
Or like their arcane knowledge of the Fey world can just be like a weird sketchy website that they run with their friend. That's where they get all their info from.
Dark web, please show me Fey folk information. I've fucking seen in Twilight, and she's like, cold ones.
Let's see. Did we cover everything? I think that was everything.
Let's check our handy dandy list we have.
I didn't write anything. I was going to write something up after this when I have it more cohesively, but
I mean, that's a-okay. It's horror with the Fey folken twist in the Pacific Northwest in a generic small town. Mix of Fey folk and humans wandering about. Deeper you go into the forest, the more fucked up things get.
You can try to protect the campers.
You can try. You can fucking try. Hypothetically, a group of park rangers would be the party.
Yeah, that's what I thought would fit best. It would make sense why they would be in command. They would also have weapons and stuff. It just felt like it lend itself well.
Do park rangers carry weapons?
Yeah. I think some park rangers carry guns and stuff, and definitely bear spray and stuff.
A fucking wizard park ranger, and it's like, I cast gun. Shoots the gun.
I mean,
but yeah, sorry, go continue.
Oh, I was just saying it'd be easy for a wizard to be touched by one of the Fey folk, and then they have all these weird things.
That's like Warlock, right? Where they can have a pact with
I think
Fey. That's an option.
Yeah, I think there's definitely ways to fit all the classes in here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, either or some other engine that we are not familiar with because we do not branch out much with the tabletop role-playing games.
Not yet. I barely know 5e.
This is merely a setting that you can take and drape across the engine of your choosing, essentially.
If you do, let us know, because
please,
we will find you anyway.
Let us live vicariously through you.
Right, I think
there's the noise again.
Oh, what a perfect ending.
Tune in next week. I may or may not be here. That's not true. Not next week. Whenever. it'll show up when it shows up. Don't worry about
Something trying to be you will play with us.
it. The entity known as Emily will continue in some form or another.
All right. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's a wrap. Bye, you guys.
Signing off. Closing the storybook. I don't know. We'll think of an ending at some point.
For now,
We're in the
goodbye.
early stages.